Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the workshop. Last week we discussed some tips of how to search information online, and now it's time to start thinking deeply about the resources you've collected. In this lesson, we're going to explore the process of analyzing content on digital media, but we're focusing on the concept of cultural differences, how to analyze with focusing on cultural differences. Next week, we're going to discuss more how to evaluate these resources. So, what's the difference between analyzing and evaluating? So, analyzing is the process of thinking without judgment, without having judgment. In analyzing, you're breaking the content, text, image, video, etc., to smaller parts so you can understand it better. On the other hand, evaluating is the process where you need to find a conclusion of your deep thinking, or where you need to form an opinion about the resource or the information. In other words, you need to have a judgment. So, this is a quick explanation of the difference between analyzing and evaluating process. But when we need to analyze and evaluate digital media content, when using digital media, when doing this process is required. Analyzing and evaluating in general are required even when reading printed text. No one should assume that printed books or academic articles are necessarily 100% accurate or that you have to accept it. You have the right to have your own opinion after all. The same is true when using digital media. Users are required to think critically of what they read. Well, read or watch in the case of digital media and the internet. Analyzing and evaluating process required also when using other aspects of digital media, like reading a broadcast, for example, or checking social media or watching ads. Mostly, you need to analyze and evaluate resources all the time when you are using digital media. And actually, the point of watching ads remind me of an important point when using traditional and digital media, which is paying attention to subliminal messages or the hidden messages in digital and traditional media. In marketing, companies might use subliminal messages to control consumers' behaviors and accordingly lead them to buy or use their products. I'll give you two simple examples in here, and if you are interested, search for subliminal messages in ads, and I will add more in the detail section. Starting with the first logo, Amazon. Who doesn't know Amazon today? But have you considered the A to Z yellow arrow before? What did you get from that? Exactly. You'll find everything from A to Z in Amazon. Another example is this image, which is another subliminal message representing a hidden war, if I can say, between companies. So Pepsi released the image on the left, and Coca Cola responded with the image on the right. Pepsi's original ad suggested that getting a Coke when you wanted a Pepsi is scary. Coca Cola response was representing that everyone wants to be a hero, so this is why they have Coca Cola. How clever! So I'll put more examples and an article about subliminal messages in the content section. Today, ads and hidden messages is not limited to traditional media because there are untraditional resources thanks to digital media, including videos, personal web pages, blogs, and so on. And you can use them as resources for your research, but you need to be skeptical and think critically about what you read before accepting or rejecting that content. To further explain what I mean, let's take Wikipedia as an example. Can we use Wikipedia in our research? We all know that Wikipedia is not a good place for academic research, and we tell our students not to use it in their research project. But that doesn't mean to totally ignore this website. Wikipedia can be a helpful resource for the start of your research process, including searching for the meaning of a concept and then building on that. The same is true for all other online resources. The message in here is to expand your research to the available untraditional resources other than text, but with having an open eye for the validity of content. You may have a concern about what I'm saying here, and I understand that we don't want younger students, K-12 for example, to get confused while they are still learning to be safe while searching online. But when it comes to the college level, it's better teaching them how to think and not what to think, right? Also, tell them how to critically analyze the resources and not what to use exactly. Something to think about. Okay, do you know what make the analysis process interesting? In my opinion, of course. It's actually the diversity in our backgrounds and opinions. We might have the same exact text to read, or let's say the same exact quote or image, and each one of us will understand it differently. Why? Because each one of us came from different educational, social, and cultural backgrounds. I'll show you an example of how people think differently when analyzing the same material. Look at this image and think, what would this image implies? Actually, this is an image I received as a broadcast on one of the mobile apps, so I don't know the source or the real meaning behind it from the creator. But a group of girls coming from the same cultural background as mine were talking about this image and discussed the meaning. One of the girls said that she didn't get the meaning. So another one told her, it's very obvious. It means that the life given by a man is actually chains for the woman. Very dark side, huh? Other girls said no, it didn't mean that. It means that there are two types of men. One make the woman feel like a princess, while another might make her feel like a prisoner. And the discussion went on with more interpretations for the meaning. There is no right or wrong answer, and there is no obvious explanation because everyone will build on his own experience, thinking, education, and definitely his or her culture. And I said culture because in these girls' discussions, it was all about marriage. Because in their culture, marriage is the main form that representing the special relationship between men and women. But if you have girls from other cultures discussing that, they most likely will generalize the relationship to be either marriage or dating or any other similar concepts they might have in their own culture. Okay, so I'm just giving this example to explain how it's different, or how culture and experience affecting our analysis. So, is there a specific process to analyze digital media content correctly? The answer is no. There is no right or wrong in analyzing because each one of us will look at the information differently and based on his or her backgrounds, as I mentioned before. And that's what makes analyzing and evaluating digital media content is kind of tricky. Think about an inside joke about something related to your culture that most people around you understand and laugh about. If you tell that joke to someone from another country or another culture, do you expect him or her to laugh? Most likely not, because he didn't get it. The same is true if that someone tells you an inside joke from his own culture that you never know about. The point is, when analyzing digital media content, especially when referring to other people's personal opinions about a topic, it's always good to know the background of those people to better understand why they formed that opinion before evaluating or judging the information. There is no special way to analyze, but to help you start the process, here are some tips. Basically, by analyzing, you are breaking the content into small components to help you understand the topic. And at the same time, it's the process that will help you to find a conclusion and evaluate the new information or resource. So, the first step is to look at the author or the producer of the resources you are analyzing. If there is a bio or an introduction, read it to know how much this author is an expert or qualified to discuss the topic that you are searching for. Check his or her professional affiliation as well and how that connected to his or her work. The second tip is to look at the language of the content. Is it rich and deep? Not necessarily using academic or big words, but is it applying a critical thinking? Does that content show an acceptable level of research and information to what you are looking for? Also, assess the resources used in that content. That would help you to evaluate the quality of what you are reading or watching. Checking the date and how recent the information is also important in order to find valid and not outdated information. You'll find more about these tips and the resource I used in the D2L content. So check that and check other links I also included in that section. And after learning about the analysis process and the analysis tips and steps, it's time now for your final project to continue the process. So the process of this week is to make sense of text, images, videos, or whatever digital media resources that you have and connect them to what you already know, to your educational, social, and cultural backgrounds. Also, apply critical thinking and analysis skills while reading. Read critically, watch critically, analyze image critically, and we'll talk more about these skills in the next slide. So, what do I mean by critical thinking and analysis skills? Okay, so I mean by applying critical thinking and analysis skills to what you read is interpreting that data, organizing ideas, and making connections. You can also sort and classify in order to analyze. You can compare and contrast in order to analyze. You can draw conclusions and summarize the content in order to analyze the resource critically. Critical thinking skills include decision making about what to use from these resources and information and not, including problem solving, if you want to think about something, include reasoning, and so on. So I hope you find this lesson helpful and don't forget to share your thoughts, concerns, or questions in the Week Cafe discussion forum.